Oh yeah, sexy biscuits. Nice.
Long goes 1975. YouTubers on the rise, reviewing games late at night and sometimes friends. But Long goes 1975.
Hey there YouTube, Longboys Post 1975, and welcome to a little comparison video. I used to do these once upon a time, and I wouldn't say never, I would do them again. And I had done one on Space Harrier, where I look at a whole different bunch of the versions of Space Harrier. So with this, because time's moved on and I have, access to different, hardware than I did back then, excuse me, I wanted to do one of those videos one more time to include all three versions of Space Harrier I couldn't do back then. Now, pretty sure you're all familiar with Space Harrier. It's one of my favourite arcade games of all time. I still remember the first time I saw it in an arcade. I think it was actually in Western-super-Mare, and it was the sit-down hydraulic cabinet, and obviously it was released in 1985 by SEGA, one of the first 16-bit games, and it features their unique sprite scaling, pseudo, 3D graphic system, which went on for stuff like Outrun, Afterburner, Thunderblade and stuff like that. But I cannot explain to you what an impact it made on me. And you can argue that it's just there to suck up 10p's and, make, well, the person who owns the arcade a lot of money. But nothing looked like this back then. Nothing looks like this. And maybe it's because I'm an old fart, but I still think this game looks absolutely fantastic. It's been ported to absolutely everything, over 20 systems, and yeah, it's gone down in history as one of the greatest and most famous arcade machines of all time. So let's get straight into the arcade version. Let's put some money in. Obviously you are Harrier. You fly around with a fuck off big tits big gun under your arm and shooting and trying to liberate the fantasy zone from a combination of tech and prehistoric creatures. Right. Money, 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 money. Boom. Now, it has self-centering analog joystick in the arcade, and I mean, look at it. This is self-centered as well. Whether it does on the other versions, I don't know, because I'm going to play two other versions. I'm going to play the Sega Saturn version from Sega Ages, and I'm going to play the Sega 32X version. Talk more about them as I play them, but this is just amazing. I mean, maybe it is because I'm old, but while I'm on the floor, it looks fantastic. The sound effects are just iconic. I can just remember hearing them above other machines in the arcade, and just, especially the noise he makes when he gets twatted and dies. But yeah, I mean, I've got gameplays of this, like I said, on the more versions, but the arcade is still the place to be or go to play it. I wish I knew of a cabinet. I would love to play this sit-down cabinet even now. But yeah, numerous stages get more and more difficult, because as I said, it's there to make money. Iconic, to make money basically. And then after a certain bunch of stages you get like a bonus stage. There we go, boss number 1, and that bonus stage is you ride on the back of dragons just smashing shit. He will change different and various colours as you twat the crap out of him, but I believe you can only shoot him when he flies towards you. But again, seeing this in the arcade is self-centering, so it takes some getting used to. Playing it on an Xbox pad, playing on a Duke, yeah, so I roll. But yeah, seeing this in the arcade for the first time, to me the most iconic boss is still the third stage boss, where he's got 2 heads, and always wanted to replicate this experience at home. And never quite could get there. The Master System one blew me away as a kid from coming with the Spectrum one and stuff like that. But yeah, it is one of those arcade games, if you're old like me, that you just wanted to always play at home, and it was just streets ahead of what we had access to, or at least I didn't have access to this back then. So let's move on to the next version. So next up is 1994's Space Harrier on the 32X. We all remember what the 32X was, don't we? It was that failed sort of stopgap between the Mega Drive and the Saturn, and a fantastic example of West not talking to East, and it absolutely tanked. Only about 40 games came out for it. But I always wanted one back in the day, and I certainly wish I bought them when they were super cheap, because I would, well, they're super expensive now. Anyway, a couple of the games released for it, such as this and Afterburner, were the sprite scalers. Now, I think that was basically, it was a quick and easy way to show off the power of the hardware, and also there was still a lot of love for games like Space Harrier and Afterburner. So let's get into it. Now, I don't think this is considered an arcade perfect port. I think there are a number of cuts or limitations made to it, but to the untrained eye, you wouldn't know what they are. And I am that bloke. That's the best boss in the game, the untrained eye. So let's get into it. I do like that splash screen. Right. Does that mean I put money in? Oh. Stage 1, moved. Now the first thing I can tell you is, it's not self-centering. Maybe that's a main thing on the previous version I played, maybe it's not. But it's an absolute blessing to play it with non-self-centering. Oh, fuck balls. Looks the part, sounds the part. Actually, I have to say, maybe again that was an emulation thing, but some of the sound effects do sound a little bit off. But to me, I mean, I wanted a 32X back in the day, but I knew it was, you know, pointless because it was, I mean, maybe I was, because I was a young adult and, you know, they look different, they look smaller. A bit of a cynic, but I knew that it was a stopgap. And as much as I wanted to play games like this, because it was for games like this that I really wanted it, I knew that it was a waste of money that I could put onto it. Again, it's funny, wow, 3 notes. I'm having trouble with it because it's not self-centric, so maybe it's better off that it does that. But yeah, I knew it was a waste of money that I could put, it does that in the arcade as well, it retains a sprite there when the scrolling numbers go up behind it. Right, so another go, let's just get to the boss. But yeah, it was a waste of money I could put to something else, but I mean, yeah, I'm getting a succinct feeling, but maybe that's because unless you're running them side by side, and I just don't have the tech to do that, that this isn't as bang on as you would think, or like it to be. But then having said that back then, because there was no other way to get this at home looking anywhere like the arcade, that this would have been a big deal. Because think about it, you know, the Mega Drive, well that was Space Harrier too, the PC Engine, all the Amiga, Atari ST, stuff like that, they couldn't do this. Ooh! Ooh, I do love it. Even as a kid I love that, the way that when you shoot stuff, it's a fucking great mushroom cloud. But yeah, the music's there. Again, is this the limitation of the 32X? The music doesn't sound as tasty and delicious. They're my favourite sort of enemy, simply because the noise they make, you know, not just that, but the ding 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 ding, just reminds me of the arcades. I don't know, again, I don't know, maybe, you know, like I said, this video is just a bit of fun I'm putting together to cover the 3 ports of the game I never did, if you can call the arcade a port. Yeah, this is definitely not arcade perfect actually, but yeah, I have to do it side by side to see, but yeah, like I said, a bit of fun for one of my favourite arcade machines of all time, and by all means, anything you notice or know, bang it in the comments down below. Oh, again, can I damage him when he's coming straight at me? Such is life. I am noticing the odd bit of, what did I say, slow down? I don't know. Maybe that's an emulation thing, because I am actually playing this on a modded Xbox. Geezer! Very early Forza horses. So anyway, let's move on to the third and final port. So the final port I'm going to try is Space Harrier on the Sega Saturn, released in 1996 as part of the Sega Ages collection. Now, Sega Ages was a bunch of budget titles released in Japan, each containing an individual game based, well not based, an arcade port using the original arcade code of one of their sort of more famous old school classic games. Now, in the West we got Sega Ages Volume 1, which had Outrun, Afterburner and Space Harrier on. Let's get into it. Now, I never had a Saturn back in the day, nor did I really want one. I jumped straight to the PlayStation. In fact, I jumped and imported a Japanese one that cost me a shit ton of money, but my brother had a Sega Saturn, and funnily enough I never knew of this pack back then. So when I first came across this, well, knew about it as an adult and actually had a Saturn and came across it in a I think it was a cash converters for a tenner, which is very underpriced for them. I thought, I'm having that because this will be arcade perfect at home, and this is before I got my modded Xbox, so let's get into it. Now, it's cropped top and bottom because it's a PAL game, but it's not cropped left and right, probably because it's not running on a modded Xbox. Looks the part, sounds the part, and I'll tell you why. It's basically not a conversion, it's using, as far as I can tell, by all means if I'm wrong let me know, but it's using the actual original arcade code, as do all the games I believe on this Sega Ages compilation, which is, I really do recommend it. I wish we got more of these compilations. I guess that's because the Saturn wasn't that popular, you know, so we got stuff like Power Drift and that, because I would love to play that, but a Japanese copy of that is a fortune. But anyway, this is about Space Harrier. Gone is the self-centering thing that was on main, and maybe because that was an emulation thing and we didn't have it on the 32X, but then also, I mean, it did self-center in the arcade, so that's faithful. I don't like it though. You can argue that whether it's faithful or not, it makes it a little bit harder to play. Oh, no, to me this looks arcade perfect, as you would hope so, because it's running on, you know, the same code. However, I would like to say, if it is arcade perfect, maybe it's got difficulty settings, I don't know, I didn't check that out on the title screen, but if it is arcade perfect, why was this level so bloody short? Anyway, unlike the 32X version, the dragon looks the absolute part, moves the absolute part, and appears to, well, be quite... Oh shit, I got shot though. Great balls of fire, quite easy to destroy. I never get time to read what that says. Oh, he's getting all pissed off. Don't recall that happening. Maybe it isn't, maybe I'm wrong. That was my understanding from years of reading stuff on Tinterwebs that it was using the original arcade code. But, who knows? So yeah, basically, you know, this isn't a serious video. I don't have, you know, the tech or the production values to do proper comparison videos, and obviously it being side by side would be the best way to do it, but I just thought it'd be a bit of fun, and ultimately that's what I like doing, fun videos of comparing, you know, in sequence, these three ports of the game that I never got to do in my original Space Harrier comparison video. Anyway, as always, I'd love to know what you think. Leave a comment down below if you know what the differences are. Correct me, by all means, because I'm usually wrong all the time. And, you know, also tell me your memories of Space Harrier back in the day, or if you're, you know, younger than me, which isn't difficult, what does it mean to you now? Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.